Hey YouTube, Dan Ottawa here, the best 3rd/4th tier Pokemon Go battler in the world, and today starts 3 cups, or 3 different leagues. Master League Open, Master League Premier Classic, and the Kanto Cup. So I'm going to put out 2 videos today. This one is the Kanto Cup. So what I'm going to do is go over the top 20 Pokemon based on PVPoke rankings, and then I'm going to give you 5 teams to use. I'm also going to put out a separate video on the Master League Premier Classic, which is no XL and no Legendaries. And I'm going to link that above so you can check that out when you're done this video. But let's talk about the Kanto Cup. So the Kanto Cup, it's called the Kanto Cup because it involves the first 151 Pokemon. But it's kind of misleading because you're also allowed the Alanon and Galarian forms of their equivalent. So for example, Muck of one of the original 150, you can use Alanon Muck or Alanon Sandslash or others as well. So it's not limited to the 151, even though it's called the Kanto Cup. But let's take a look at the PVPoke rankings and look at the top 20 here. And let's go over what we're going to see here in this meta, what I expect to see, and then we'll do 5 teams for you to go over. So let's just start with the 2 XLs because I put teams together not using XLs because to get these XLs, you need to, like Chanseys and Lickitungs they're not really in the wild. So you need to like hatch them or walk them. So I don't think a lot of people have them, but they're there. Really, they are tough because they're so thick, and that's why they're so high up there. The only thing that's really going to beat them is fighters. So you have a couple others, I think, have decent matchups against them. That just hit hard and fast, but for the most part, you're just looking at your fighters there. But so keep that in mind if you run into them. If you want to build a team with them, I've got a couple fighters on my teams. Nidoqueen at 2 and 4, not surprising. Nidoqueen is gonna be a beast in this meta. I expect the majority of people to run them because there's very few Pokemon, even water Pokemon, that can deal with Nidoqueen because the Poison Jabs, Poison Fang just dominate. You just weigh your opponent down too hard and too fast. So expect Nidoqueens to be everywhere. I've got I've got one team with Nidoqueen and then a bunch of sort of how to deal with Nidoqueen teams. Lapras is number 5, and let's just go Snorlax at 16 and 19. Those are your beefy safe swaps. They don't have like amazing matchups in a ton of things, but they have just all around decent matchups and can just take a lot of energy, and that's kind of what you use them for. Shadow Ninetales at 6 and Ninetales at 13. I cannot wait to use my Shadow Ninetales again. For those of you who haven't checked my videos, I use a couple overheat Ninetales, and Ninetales it's actually, I don't want to say insane because I hate using that word, but it's extremely strong because the fire spins and weather balls get there very fast, and the overheat just one shots even like resisted moves. It just does so much damage. So Beedrill at 7 and 9. Again, Beedrill's like a slightly worse version of Nidoqueen, not as bulky, but you still have your Poison Jab quick move with a Drill Run, nice coverage, charge move, and X-Scissor. There's not a lot of dark in the original 150, so X-Scissor's not as, but it's just still a nice like spammy move. Hypno at number 8. I think Hypno is a good, I don't even know if it has a winning matchup against Nidoqueen, but it's a good sort of all-around Pokemon to use for just coverage, and the confusion is like you know what they do. They just kind of do a lot of just damage there. Pidgeot at 10. So Pidgeot, again, Hypno and Pidgeot, you're basically doing the same thing, right? Gust and Confusion are sort of similar, that you're just trying to overpower your opponents with fast moves, and then Feather Dance, Brave Bird, obviously better moves than Hypno because Feather Dance just severely lowers the attack, and then Brave Bird's a one-shot nuke. Muck, and I'll just go Grimer back to back there because same sort of concept. You got another poison because there's not a ton of answers to poison in this, and the Poison Jab, either Acid Spray, does a decent amount. And I said there's not a lot of dark in here, and a Muck and a Grimer. This is one that are not within the original 151 that will have good coverage because just Dark Pulse is just such a great move. So it'll cover Hypno. It does decently well against a lot of it, like hits well against Lapras, does well against Snorlax, so decent there. A Sandslash, this is a nice Pokemon to cover Nidoqueen and other users, Dragonites that you may see that are weak to ice. It's very, very, very glassy and double weak to fighting. So keep that in mind. You need to build, maybe pair with the Nidoqueen and something else. Dugong, again, is nice. It's weak to fighting, but it's pretty bulky. And you have the Ice Shard, Icy Wind, so you have that sort of ice coverage with water coverage also. So I like Dugong. I don't know if I put him on a team, but I definitely have one. I'll probably use one. Golbat 17, 18, I've seen them everywhere in the Ultra League right now. It's because it has such a wide coverage, right? It has a wing attack, which is nice for your grass and just general neutral. You have the Poison Fang, which lowers the defense, and then you have the Shadow Ball, which is sort of a nuke, and it charges pretty quickly. So I expect to see a lot of Golbats as well. And then number 20, Dragonair. Why you're not seeing Dragonite there is Dragonair just is bulkier than Dragonite, right? Dragonite in the Great League is pretty glassy, so that's why you're seeing Dragonair so high up. So let's go over 5 teams that I'm going to use, or at least try out some of these. I'm going to mix up Kanto and I Love Master League, so I'm going to do both. But yeah, hopefully I can pump out a lot of teams for you guys here over the next 2 weeks as you grind towards Legend. So let's go to Team 1. So Team 1, I was like, okay, everyone's going to have Nidoqueen. Let's just put Nidoqueen on a team. So start with Nidoqueen. As expected, you have a ton of coverage because your Nidoqueen with the Earth power covers your Mucks and your Grimers, and you do just pure Poison Jab, Poison Fang, just destroys the rest. It's a little weak to Lapras and Ace Hand Slash. So I paired it with 2 things. So Dugong and Ninetales. Ninetales, like I said, is a beast in this league, and you'll be surprised how spammy and fast and hard it hits, and has a ton of coverage in the top. And Dugong also as a nice safe swap, quite honestly, even though it has some bad matchups out there. Just being able to get out to a lead and then Icy Wind down to lower their attack will help you out there, and it's pretty thick. So that's the first team that I'm going to be probably trying out. Second team I put together is, okay, Chansey and Lickitung are up there. Let's just go with the main fighter, Machamp. So throw Machamp. You're obviously weak to Nidoqueen. You got the big Hypno and Golbat weaknesses there. So let's throw in your Ace Hand Slash to take out your Flyers and your ground there. And then that leaves you with a Ninetales. It's not a huge weakness, but it's a weakness, and a Marowak. So I paired it with a Blastoise as your main water Pokemon to deal with that. And Blastoise is pretty thick in the Great League and decent coverage around. Again, there's not a ton of electric. Well, I shouldn't say there's not a ton, but I'd be surprised if you see a ton. So Blastoise is a nice sort of coverage Pokemon there. This third one, I'm like, okay, everyone's using Golbat. Let's use Golbat. So I threw in Golbat, and it has, because there's like a decent amount of ice and electric, not a decent amount, but like, as you can see there, like Ace Hand Slash, Dugong, and Graveler. So there's a few Pokemon that can deal with it. So I needed to kind of have 2 Pokemon that can cover all those. So what I did was did Primeape as the main fighter, because if you're weak to Dugong and Sand Slash, you just need a fighter to take it out. So I did Primeape. Again, you can use Machamp. I just already did a Machamp one there, so I didn't want to repeat. And then I'm like, okay, I don't want to use a Pokemon that I've used more than once. I don't want to have the same coverage Pokemon. Let's use the safe swap Snorlax, because Golbat and Primeape both have these weaknesses. So you just kind of need a safe swap to absorb energy and try and flip matchup. And Snorlax is probably one of the best that you can do it with that. Team 4. So honestly, I wanted this one. I'm not sold on, as you can see by a lot of the weaknesses here. It's got a lot of circles. The thing is, like, even in some of these, like I ran some of the analysis, and some of these losses are like by 7 HP. So like if you snuck in a 1 confusion on the Hypno as like a safe swap in some of these matchups, you're gonna flip the matchup. So all these sort of losses is kind of over exaggerated. And as you can see with the Mew, so the Mew is double weak right there. The 2 bigs filled in circles, but that's because I'm running the Shadow with the 2 punches. If you run a Shadow Ball on it, then you flip that matchup. So just keep that in mind. It depends what you want to do. But it's a Muck, because I wanted to use a Muck because I think it's still a great safe swap overall, and it's one of the only darks in this league to cover like Hypno and others. So put it in there. It's got a few weaknesses, as you would expect. So I also wanted to use the Shadow Hypno because it is a safe swap and deals with those weaknesses. And then Sea King, I think Sea King's gonna have a lot of sneaky play. I think you're gonna see a couple of them, because it can get if he gets ahead on energy. It does pretty well in like the same thing. Like Sea King and Hypno are two of those Pokemon that I found in the analysis that like if you get ahead on energy, these are all just like even. You start even, right? That's how the analysis on PVPoke is done. But if you get like a couple moves ahead on either of them, you're in a pretty good position there. So just keep that in mind with this team. And the last one, I was like, okay, let's use Venusaur because Venusaur Frenzy Plant is a beast. Obviously, it has a few weaknesses in this here. So I paired it with the Graveler because it seems to cover almost every single. Yeah, it does cover every single one of this weakness. Some of these really, really hard. And then Pidgeot, same thing, was the top top 20 Pokemon. I'm like, yeah, everyone has it. Let's put it in, and it has a great matchup against a lot of the top 20 there. So those are 5 teams that you can use for Kanto. Mix and match, see what you're seeing out there, see what the meta is. Like I said, some people have Chansey Lickitung, yes. Well, a lot of them, no. You're gonna see a lot of Nidoqueens. You're gonna see a lot of Laprases. I think you'll see a lot of Golbats. Dragonair, I think some people put out Graveler because it's been in a Muck. These are Mew. A lot of these Pokemon are Machamps, are Pokemon that are very common that people already have built up from previous cups. So if you don't want to build additional Pokemon, you'll just see a lot of these common ones. So that's kind of use one of these teams and adjust based on what you're seeing. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned / go watch the next one and for Master League Premier Classic, and I'll see you guys in the next one.